Hey guys, Ningen here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle video, and so the time is upon us once more for another World Tournament. By the time this video goes live, it will start in about 12 hours time. And as always, if you're not new to the channel, you will know this. I always put out a video about the new World Tournament reward and go over what they do and whether or not I think they are worth the grind to get the extra copies. So this time around we have this new base form Gotenks. Good thing about him being base form is he is farmable from the Goku and Friends story event, the fusion one. It's not on at the moment, so you would have to use keys. I would advise waiting. He is primarily a support unit, so getting him to SA10 straight away is not really that important. So going over very briefly what he does. Super Tech types, Key 2, HP, attack and defense 70%. Not terrible, but you're probably not going to be using him these days. Maybe for newer players, sub leader for Battlefield, he's not terrible. His super attack raises attack and defense, causes supreme damage to the enemy. Now this is an infinite stack. It's only 20% per time, but in longer events, like we just did the Infinite Dragon Ball History yesterday with the full transforming team, this will be able to keep stacking and stacking till you get to the point where, especially at Rainbow, it probably wouldn't take that long to where this guy will be taking double digits from normal attacks, which obviously for a support unit is really good. So he changes AGL spheres to tech spheres, so I guess that's another unit that could be useful if you're still trying to do the punching bag missions with a unit like Goku and Frieza or LR Super Saiyan 3 Goku. But then his main use, he gives youth category allies 20% attack, 10% defense, and fusion category allies 20% attack, 10% defense. So he's very similar to the STR base form Goku Black from the last one. And just like him, units that are in both of those categories will get both the buffs. So 40% attack, 20% defense, which is pretty decent. He's obviously best used in a team that has other Gotenks units. Because they're pretty much the only ones that are in youth and fusion at the same time. I don't know if Pandel and Bullpan are, but they're not units that get used very much nowadays either. So he's kind of in a weird spot. Obviously the fusion category doesn't have a lot of solid support units, so he is at least giving a little bit to them. And then of course any other Gotenks unit is going to get a little bit extra. Obviously you've got Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, either the physical or the Easy A Tech one. They will benefit quite a lot from this guy being on the same team with them. So it kind of depends on your fusion build whether or not he would be useful to you. And then the youth team build, again, he is still going to give them half of that passive. Gotenks units can obviously be very good on the youth team. Not a lot of people pulled for the Kid Goku though, and he hasn't been back on a banner. So his links, the one thing that stands out as being interesting, they're pretty standard base form Gotenks links. The only one that really stands out as being out of place is the fact that he has over in a flash. So I find that really strange, especially because he's base form Gotenks, but there you go. This is going to help him link up better with the Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks, but then because they have fused fire as well, that's 5 key. He doesn't give key from his passive, but that means he's going to put the Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks straight to 11 key if they're next to each other. Which obviously is bad because normally you want to try and aim for 11 key with Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. So he's a decent unit. I don't think he's worth going too crazy, especially nowadays. We get a copy just from getting a certain amount of points, so most people, even if you don't grind that hard, you will have one copy of this guy by the end of the weekend before they even give out the rewards. And so now that means if you really want to open up all of his dupe paths, you used to have to finish in the top 1000 because that gives you 5 copies. You now only have to finish in the top 2000 and that gives you 4 copies plus the one you got from the points, and then there you go, you'd be able to rainbow him. So he's okay. He's obviously, I would say, absolutely do all the missions and get the 1 copy of him. And then it just kind of depends whether you have the time to grind. Getting the 2 extra copies to open just his bottom right and top left could be useful. As a support unit, I would obviously recommend giving him full dodge. And then, probably because he has infinite stack, he gets the free level 5 crit. And so then you would give him additional, which would be 6 and 15 dodge. So maybe 12 dodge, 9 additional, and then try and get those extra stacks in there if he is a unit that you're going to use. But overall, he's not bad, but I would say if we come to a yes or no conclusion, he is not worth the grind to get all the extra copies. But definitely do make sure you pick up one by doing all the missions. So the other thing I wanted to cover is there are a bunch of new units getting added to this Dragon Ball ticket banner that always comes around with the World Tournament. Hasn't been updated for a while since they added the Int Jackie Chun, and once I rainbowed him I stopped summoning on that banner, so I have a bunch of tickets saved up. So we'll go over them very quickly. We've got a new Cyborg Tao. He is farmable because of the strike unit. He's not in the Dragon Ball Saga category though, because he's the later version of Cyborg Tao, which is probably his biggest issue. So if we go over what he does very briefly, he has a very standard leader skill, not great nowadays. His super attack, supreme damage, medium chance to stun, which is 30%. He gets attack and defense 100% when performing a super attack, which is actually pretty decent. And then attack and defense 20% with each attack received, up to 80%. So that means once you've received those 4 attacks, at the start of the turn he has 80% boost to his attack and defense. And then when you super, you're going to get a 100% boost on top of that. So that is actually pretty good. But the problem is he's only in World Tournament, Resurrected Warriors and Siblings Bond. These last two, he definitely isn't going to have a place on that team, because who's he going to link with? I mean, he has Revival, and I guess some of them will have Brutal Beatdown, but his links are awful for that team. World Tournament, maybe, but of course we still don't have a proper World Tournament leader with like a leader skill higher than, is it 70% Jackie Chun has? So he seems good on paper, but kind of like the Pycon units, he just doesn't fit anywhere, which is a bit of a shame. So then we have Android 8. He's in a similar situation. So he's only in Androids and Dragon Ball Saga. So we'll go over why that's a bit of an issue. He does supreme damage. He lowers attack and defense, which is pretty decent. His passive skill, attack 100% for 3 turns after receiving an attack. And then attack and defense 80% when there is a Goku family category ally on the team. So this is where the problem lies with him. If you're running him on an Androids team, you're never going to fulfill this secondary part of his passive. So it means he has no defense. He just has 100% attack after receiving an attack. So he would definitely be a huge liability, especially as an SSR that doesn't have an awakening. On the Dragon Ball Saga team though, he could be quite useful. He is going to get this buff, and then of course the extra once he's been hit. His links are not the worst. Incredible Adventure and Guidance of the Dragon Balls are obviously very common on that team. I think a couple of them have Infighter. I'm pretty sure LR Yamcha does. A couple of them do. And then Android Assault and Gentleman you're probably not going to get on that team. If you did use him on the Android team, I guess some Cell units have Gentleman, and then a few of them obviously have Android Assault. But I feel like he really doesn't fit there because of this secondary part of his passive. So he could be an interesting unit for the Dragon Ball Saga team. It is of course the first time we have had an Android 8 actual unit, because he's only been a support item until now. But yeah, he's kind of a bit lackluster. So surprisingly, the best unit out of the 3 new ones is an SR, which means he only goes up to SSR. He does not get the hidden potential system. He's also going to be slightly more common for you to pull, because pulling SSRs from that Dragon Ball banner can be like pulling teeth. So hopefully you'll get multiple copies of him, be able to get him to at least Super Attack 10, and then I guess save 4 for if he ever gets an Awakening. So the reason why he's so good is he is only an SR, so he has low stats, as you can see here, like 3000 defense, not great. But he infinitely stacks his defense, which is pretty good. So obviously it's going to take a few turns to get to a point where he's not going to get hit really hard, but once you build it up, then you're obviously going to be okay. He does supreme damage, which is good for an SR, of course. And then his passive, he gives himself 150% defense, so he's already starting off fairly well. But then he is a Dragon Ball Saga support unit, 2 key, attack and defense 30%. So that actually makes him one of the best support units for the pure Dragon Ball Saga team. So he's definitely going to be useful. His links are going to be very common on the team as well. He even has Turtle School, which obviously a couple of the units on that team will have. So he's probably the best unit getting added to that new banner. And because he's an SR, hopefully we're going to be able to pull a ton of copies of him. So Yeah, I would say he's the best one. So let me know what you guys think down below of the 3 new units and the new Gotenks. Obviously, over the weekend, I will do at least 1 or 2 little streams of the World Tournament. I will be going over the details of the STR nuking team that I've mentioned recently. Shout out to Shadow from the Discord. He got mad at me because I didn't mention him by name last time. So, yeah, stay tuned for all of that World Tournament goodness, and let me know what you think down below of all the new units. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. You can follow me on Twitch or join my Discord. The link is in the description below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.